Hello, welcome to the January edition of the Joliet Public School District 86 7th grade math parent newsletter. In this video, we will take a look at the concept of unit rate developed in Unit 3. This is a continuation of 6th grade work with unit rates to include rates represented with complex fractions. And then students will be building an understanding of the term constant of proportionality. Students should be seeing this topic by the end of the month. In this explanation, I've already used 3 math terms that you may or may not be familiar with. First is unit rates. If you're not acquainted with the term unit rate, it is simply a relationship between 2 quantities where the second quantity is 1 unit. Some examples are cost per pound, miles per hour, and different types of measurement conversions, such as 60 minutes in an hour or 1,440 minutes in a day. This concept was introduced and a focus for students in 6th grade. The 7th grade continuation of this standard involves more complex computation, namely work with complex fractions. A complex fraction is a fraction in which the numerator, the top number, or the denominator, the bottom number, or both, contains fractions. How that would sound in terms of rate would be something like a person walking a half a mile in a quarter hour. The constant of proportionality is the constant value relating amounts that rise or fall uniformly together. A good example of this would be an hourly pay rate. For example, if I make $20.25 per hour, 20.25 is the constant value that relates the number of hours worked to the amount I will get paid. So I can take the constant of proportionality and multiply it by the number of hours I worked to find out how much my paycheck will be. Students have learned to use different modalities to help them identify unit rates. One method that they used was a tape diagram or bar model. That's simply a graphic organizer to help you visualize what is happening in the problem. In this case, a cookie recipe calls for 3/4 cup of flour for every half stick of butter. So we're looking at the relationship between the amount of flour compared to the amount of butter in the recipe. The double number line model is a model that is used to, again, compare 2 values. In this case, we're looking at the gallons of gas used per day in a traveling situation. Students have also learned to find unit rate through a table of values. They're able to examine and find patterns in the increase or decrease of variables in a given situation. And ultimately, students will work with equations in an abstract method to identify proportional relationships. In this case, the proportional equation y equals kx, where k is the constant of proportionality. So if I think back to my example of pay, 2025 times x, the number of hours I worked, will tell me y, how much I'm going to get paid. Let's look at what this might look like in the classroom. Task that has been provided through illustrative mathematics. Travis was attempting to make muffins to take to a neighbor that had just moved in down the street. The recipe that he was working with required 3/4 cups of sugar and 1/8 cup of butter. Travis accidentally put a whole cup of butter in the mix. Now, we need to be able to figure out how we can offset that with the other ingredients. This problem is scaffolded, which provides the students with some direction on how to start the problem. The scaffold that is provided for students here is what is the ratio of sugar to butter in the original recipe. That is basically the first step that we would have to look at in order to determine how we would have to adjust things. So starting with the ratio of sugar to butter, I see in my original problem that I need 3/4 cups of sugar for every 1/8 cup of butter. Now the problem here is instead of 1/8 cup of butter, Travis used 1 whole cup of butter. And I could see here that that is 8 times more than what he needed. How do I know that? Well, if I have 1/8 cup of butter that I need, I know that in order to get 1, I would multiply by the reciprocal. Multiply by the inverse of the fraction. Students learned this concept and why it works over the past several years. But basically, if I have a unit fraction like 1/8, I need 8 of those in order to make 1 whole. So if I need 8, I could add 1/8, 8 times, or I can just multiply it by 8, which is oftentimes much more efficient. Now, in order to keep this in ratio, right here it says the same ratio of sugar to butter. So in order to keep this in ratio, I need to keep it having the same values. The only way that I can keep this relationship the same is by multiplying it by 1. Since I multiplied the denominator by 8 in order to get 1, I also have to multiply the numerator by 8. This is where I'm finding how I'm going to increase the amount of sugar to make up for the extra butter. So if I multiply the numerator by 8, I have 8 3/4 cups of butter. I would get 24 fourths, which is the same as 6. So 6 cups of butter would offset, 6 cups of sugar would offset the amount of butter used in this recipe. Now, there are many extensions we can continue to add on to that problem, but we were able to find how to offset the butter by increasing the amount of sugar in a proportional manner. Thank you so much for joining us for this installment of the video newsletter. Please be sure to check back next month to help support your 7th grade student. Thank you.